Welcome back to BWO Daily, your source for news in sports entertainment and the world of professional wrestling from you boys at Busted Wide Open. My name is Nick Howell.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous, and today we're talking about Raw. Monday Night Raw, the WWE main roster show. You all know the one that's been around forever. Well, it's been around forever, and this week it had its worst ratings of all time.
Ouch.
It's been trending downwards for a while, but it really crashed this week, down to 1.56 million, that's really low for a show that not 6 months ago was clearing 2 million and a few years ago was clearing 3 million.
Yeah.
So it has absolutely cratered. It did a 0.48 in the coveted 18 to 49 demo. You may have been hearing people talking about the demos lately. That's because the demos are what TV networks look at these days in terms of advertising revenue. That's the group of people that the advertisers want to target the most, what they're willing to pay the most for. So that's why the demo is all important. As I said, Raw averaged a 1.56 with its first hour doing 1.58, its second hour doing 1.6, but then the third hour dropping all the way down to 1.5. So if you think about what came where on the show, you can kind of see where that is. Now, that's usually how the rhythm of the show goes, where it either like the first, second hour will one of them will win, but they're the higher ones. Third hour always dips, but it's just a matter of how much it dips.
And this is normally a conversation we're having in the fall when Raw is competing with Monday Night Football, but we're in the summer right now in July, but there's some other obviously extraneous things happening in the world right now. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned the fall off of the last few years. Listen, the height of Stone Cold saw 6 to 9 million on any given Raw. So this been doing this for 20 years.
Well, and of course, there's lots of things you can lay that at the feet of: streaming services, watching online, the length of Raw, and being able to just watch YouTube clips afterwards,
or the Hulu edition for 90 minutes.
Yeah, and also another thing that's a story these days is the fact that overall the viewership has aged, and there's almost no other sports or entertainment property where you've actually watched the primary viewing age of its audience continue to age out of that demo. If you look at NXT right now, for example, they're in a quote-unquote ratings war with AEW, and even if they do win overall numbers, their overall base is so heavily over 50 that even with 100,000 more people watching NXT, you can still have a vast disparity, and AEW will just dominate in that 18 to 49 demographic over NXT. So it's pretty wild. That being said, you have to look at its other competition on air at the same time. Raw was fourth overall for the evening in the 18 to 49 demo. It was behind 90 Day Fiancé, Below Deck Mediterranean, and 90 Day Other Way. Those legendary shows. I've never heard of any of those. I've heard of 90 Day Fiancé. I lied. I've heard of that one. But it was first.
It's awful trash TV.
Well, there goes our sponsorship. It was.
Sorry, Bravo.
Raw was first in males 18 to 49. So from that metric, that's not bad. That might be some good news. It's still number one in that coveted male 18 to 49 demo. However, obviously, if you put males and females in there, not so much. Also first males 12 to 17. So even though the audience is skewing older, it is still winning the night in that demographic for its time slot. So it was 28th overall for the entire night, 5th amongst non-news shows. But from last year, it was down 36% week over week. So, and 40% down on the 18 to 49 demo. Now, again, from last year, the world is a different place this year. But again, looking at NXT and AEW, they've fallen off from their highs, but they're not continuing to slide. They're both kind of holding around 6,000 to 7,000 and around there, and they're kind of fluctuating up and down. But they didn't drop. They're not continuing to drop. So if you look at the arc of everything, Raw is still sliding and AEW and NXT have kind of held steady for a while.
Plateaued, yeah. Well, they've been in that 700 to a million range pretty much since they started. I mean, NXT went live on USA in October, and Dynamite started in October, and we had that hot debut of Dynamite that first week, and then it's been the 700 to a million up and down ever since.
Yeah.
So I don't know where it's going to go. I still think it's channel flippers going back and forth.
It's possible. I don't know if that's how Nielsen works, but the bottom line is that right now Raw, it's year over year, it's actually the demo, the 18 to 49 demo has actually held fairly solid. Like that's only down a couple of percent from last week, while the viewers overall were down 7%. So
yeah.
The younger demo is not falling off as hard. So you could attribute that to a tough news cycle this week or whatever. Again, so there's a lot other stuff going on. It's still not good because you have to assume that nothing's getting back to normal anytime soon. So how long will it be before you can say this is just the new reality for Monday Night Raw? That being said, NBC Peacock, the streaming service for NBC, is starting up soon. Its premium tier is going to offer about 20,000 hours of content, but only 100 of those hours are going to be WWE, and they're not going to have any current or recent shows. Rather, like you're not going to be able to watch last week's Raw on it, but they're going to have produced content like the Broken Skull sessions or like John Cena's greatest wrestling matches or top 10 ride along, something like that. So they're going to have WWE content, but it's not going to be anything that's going to really compete with the network.
What does this have to do with WWE? So you're saying, so does USA, is it owned by NBC?
Yes, NBC owns USA, so they're able to get this content, but they're only picking up, out of 20,000 hours of content, about 100 hours. I wasn't able to find out how that relates to approximately how much content they're picking up from those sources, but when you consider how much content WWE has created over the years, it's a really small percentage of their overall content. Yeah. It might be, they might just have it on there to sort of be like a winking nod. Well, if you want more of this, come to the network. It's only $9.99, or there's a free tier now, so it might be something they're throwing out there as a way to remind everybody essentially that they exist, or a way for NBC to utilize some of this property that they've dropped $1.3 billion on.
There is a long bullet list of places that you can consume WWE content, and I'm starting to wonder if they're their own worst enemy, eating their own tail in a way by just shotgunning this stuff out to all these different places. I mean, USA's got its own app you can watch old episodes on.
Yep.
You can go back and watch it on the network to a certain extent. Now NBC Peacock's going to have it. They're even airing stuff on FS1. At what point does Nielsen stop mattering and being the end-all, be-all of things? Hulu,
this is why the actual numbers. I don't think the numbers of the WWE shows on like NBC Peacock or Hulu or anything, that's not cannibalizing, I think, the live numbers to the extent that we're seeing the drop-off that exists. It might be a part of it. People that are but when you DVR a show, it counts as watching it live. So it's something where that's not going to affect the numbers that doesn't explain what's happening with the numbers right now. Not in and of itself.
No.
It could be a piece, but there's a lot of factors going on here, and one of the major factors is people just aren't watching live.
Yeah. No, I haven't had a cable subscription in any form since 2013, and I promise you I've watched almost every episode of WWE programming that they've put out.
Right.
So take the Nielsen stuff with a grain of salt. There's people out there consuming stuff that's not being counted by Nielsen, I guess is what I wanted to say.
Yes, but if you're watching it on Hulu Live or Sling, it does go towards the ratings.
Agreed.
So, in other news, we've got to talk about something a little bit more serious here. Will Ospreay, one of our favorites on this show, one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. I don't think that's an arguable point. He definitely is.
100%.
He has admitted to having mental health issues in the past. He's actually even brought it into promos in the ring. We know he struggled with depression, as have so many of us. He actually posted on Instagram stories that a couple of weeks ago, he almost did something that he would regret. I'll actually read exactly what he posted. He said, "A few weeks ago, I came very close to something I know I'd regret. I'm still dragging my feet, but I'm getting better. I'm still smiling, barely, but a smile nonetheless. Suicide isn't an option. Even when you feel like you've dropped the world, learning and pushing forward to be better is an option." Thank you to the people that have ever made me smile or laugh and been there to pick me up. Because of you, my heart still beats. I love you all. So,
God, I feel myself getting emotional just thinking about what would have happened.
So, one of the many downsides of this current time that we're finding ourselves in with quarantine, with the state of the world, all the madness going on, is that suicides, self-harm, depression has been on the rise. Obviously, it affects everybody. We've actually even lost wrestlers to online bullying and depression over the years. So it's something that is very, like, you need to be very conscious of it. Not just with our wrestlers and stars, people we look at, but our friends and people around us, and just reaching out and making sure to let people know that you're there. For what it's worth, there is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. If there's no one else to call, if you're in crisis or looking to help somebody else, if you want to actually be a part of that, you can call 1-800-273-8255, and that's a good resource. And there's also a crisis text line for emotional crisis support, and you just text hello to 741-741. And that's available 24/7. It's confidential and it's free. So both of those are resources for anyone who's feeling the kind of thoughts that apparently Will Ospreay was feeling at the time. Thank goodness he had, the mental ability and the people around him to reach out. He still had enough of a support system around him, and so it is definitely the sort of thing that's difficult, because no matter what your mental fortitude is, there's just sometimes where you can't see your way out of the hole. So that's when you just have to, reach out to people and get that perspective.
This is the very reason we've created the mental health channel in our Discord community. It's one of if I'm ever having a bad day and I pop in there and I see all of the positivity and the messages and the things like that and the people talking to each other, it's one of the things that it kind of fills me with joy just seeing that. So to all of our listeners and our fans, if you're not in our Discord community, come join us. We do have a safe space there that you can share. Please reach out. As Will so very aptly said, suicide is not an option. And if you treat it that way, there are people that will listen and will talk and want to help. And
there's lots of other options.
Include us. And forgive me if I'm speaking for you, Sir Ian. We are always here.
Yeah, and there's a reason why, like, if you're just finding us on the internet, if you just clicked on us and you've made it this far into the video, like, we do, check out our show. We do actually run a pretty positive show, and the whole idea is, it is spreading love, and even if we kvetch about our wrestling, at the end of the show, we have a moment of positivity that was inspired by one of our listeners, Sean Clark, who'd been through his own tough times and said, one of the things that I want to hear is something positive. And so, we're definitely trying to reach out with positivity and keep everything on the up. So that's why I wanted to bring that up about Will, to just, say, send love his way, let him know we're glad that he was able to, to find that and be picked up by the people around him. And so, and just sending him love, hoping he feels better. So
love you, Will.
Yep. Hope you get to come back and be big sex hog back in New Japan.
Big old sex hog.
Big old sex. He's huge. He's huge now. He may be getting depressed, but he ain't stopping working out. I got props to that. That's hard to do. Let's leave it on a lighter note, Nick. Asuka was on a media call, and she was asked who she would want to face if they had another all-women's pay-per-view. Asuka replied, Rhea Ripley, former NXT champion, current badass, wrecking fools right and left, double submissions. Rhea tweeted out, interesting. I've always wanted to face Asuka.
I have but one thing to say that our listeners will know what I'm prefacing here, what I'm about to say, and that is, put it in my eye holes, please.
Sold. Sold. So yes, give us that, please. While we're sitting here percolating on that, I'm going to throw this at you. It's Jesse the Body Ventura's birthday. He turns 69 today, dude. So happy birthday to the Body, Jesse Ventura. He ain't got time to bleed, and that is the news.
Well, thank you very much, Sir Ian Dangerous. Happy birthday, Mr. Ventura, or Governor Ventura, I should say.
Governor Ventura.
Former governor of Minnesota.
My goodness.
Make sure, guys, as I said, make sure you get into our Discord. It is the place where we all hang out all throughout the week, including myself and Sir Ian Dangerous, watching live shows, chatting about other things. We've got throwback chats and the aforementioned mental health channel. If you just need a place to check in and chat with some friendlies, we've got you covered there too.
Good people.
But all of the links to both the Discord and all of our social stuff can be found down in the description below. Make sure you're subscribed here to the channel. Got your notifications set to all so you get notified every time we put up a new episode of BWO Daily or go live. For the time being, hint, hint, we're moving to Twitch very soon. Hint, hint, more on that later. But my name is Nick Howell. You can find me on Twitter at DataCenterDude.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. You can find me on Twitter at Sir Ian Dangerous.
And we will see you guys next time.